Hey there, cat fans. Welcome to Meowster Podcast. I'm Rebecca Zish. That's Tim Black.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Rebecca?
I'm fine. Thank you. So, in the past, we have visited the world of science.
We have.
We do that sometimes on this podcast to see what's going on with cats and science. However, this time we're going to visit the world of science, but a little historical science. Maybe.
So, whereas we have visited cats and science in the past, this time we're literally
I know where you're going.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, we're literally going to discuss cats and science in the past.
In the past.
Yes.
That's right. Yes. So in our past,
Yes.
on past podcasts,
Yeah.
we have visited stories of current scientific research happening that's related to cats.
Right.
This is about stuff that's happened in the world of science in the past.
Yes.
In past history.
Yes.
In years past. Never before discussed on this podcast.
It's old science, but new podcast material.
Oh, God. Okay.
This was never meant to be confusing.
You've made it confusing.
I was trying to clarify.
And yet, I feel like you've made it more confusing.
Oh, no.
Unless I'm the one who made it more confusing.
I've done it again.
Again?
I don't know.
Have you been doing this?
Making things confusing?
Yes.
I have a lifelong history of making things needlessly confusing.
Hence your bachelor's degree in philosophy.
Wow.
Which is a
Jeez.
confusing...
I never thought it'd be used as a weapon against
Oh,
me.
sorry about that. I think I've actually used it that way before.
You actually have.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a confusing field of study.
It wasn't at the time.
Okay.
There were legitimate reasons for it. I'm not going to get into it now.
No, I mean not confusing like why somebody would study it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the study itself is
It's confusing. Okay.
Someone recently asked me, a young person, should I take Introduction to Philosophy in college? And I said, no.
Really?
Yeah.
I told them no.
I said it doesn't. I don't know. I said, aren't there other things you can take for whatever that's going to fulfill, whatever requirement that's going to fulfill?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that person took my advice, but I was just like, no.
Okay.
But just because I find it confusing. But there are other things I don't find confusing that other people do. So,
Right.
Everybody's
To
mind
each
works.
his own.
Everybody's mind works in a different way.
Yes.
Look, I don't know if it's just you. No, that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say I don't know if it's just me. Again, this is like a philosophy question.
Yes.
Like, am I talking about
Who is it
you
just?
or me?
Yes.
But I felt when I took Introduction to Philosophy that really what we learned was there were a lot of philosophers. And if you took the concept of, is there a table in this room, that they would all approach that in a different way. That was it. That's what I felt like I got a semester of. Like
You
how,
probably kind of did, yeah.
who are all
I mean,
these
that's-
philosophers and would they argue that there is a table
or is not a table
not?
in the room. In a sense, yeah, that probably is philosophy 101 in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I told this young person.
Okay.
I said, if you really care
Yeah.
whether or not there's a table in the room or you just need a table to sit behind to take notes
Yeah.
in another class, then take the other class.
Okay.
That's pretty good advice, right?
Sure.
Okay. All right. All right. So, but today we're going to talk about not philosophy.
No, not at all.
We're going to talk about science.
Yes.
And actually, mostly physics,
Yeah.
really.
Physics is fascinating.
Sure.
I could never handle the math myself.
Yeah,
It's a lot of numbers.
it is.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too.
I'm not the best at it. And I don't think anybody would want me being the physicist in charge of anything.
Yeah, no.
No. Chances are I would get stuff wrong.
Yeah.
But, I understand it for the most part.
Yeah. I've read a couple of books by Brian Greene. You know Brian Greene?
Sure.
Yeah.
I know Brian Austin Green.
No, not that
He
one.
was on
I'm talking
Beverly
about,
Hills 90210.
this is Brian Greene, the physicist. Yes.
Maybe they've worked together.
I would go see that show.
There's a show. That's a show. All right. Let's start with, I've got two things to talk about today. Let's start with the one that's oldest.
Okay. We'll do
Okay.
it in chronological order.
That's right.
Yes.
And a philosopher might argue that time
Okay.
that there is no such thing as chronological order.
That can actually be tied into physics as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So,
Jeez.
I don't even know how we got here.
I don't know
All right.
what's happening. We're completely unscripted, folks.
This isn't at all what we were
We
going
just
to talk
turn the
about.
mic on and go. That's how we do this show. In case you wondered.
I don't think anyone was under the impression that we planned ahead of time what we would talk about. Well, no, we plan ahead of time what we will talk about.
Yes. How we're going to do it, we have no idea
no
what's
idea.
going to happen. No.
There have been episodes where we flipped coins to
We
decide
have.
things.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Pulling the curtain back today.
I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. Okay, so we're going to start with Nikola Tesla. Now, probably a lot of people have heard of Nikola Tesla. Maybe some people have not. He is best known as an inventor in the realm of electrical engineering.
Yeah.
So one of the things he's most known for is he designed the modern idea of the alternating circuit.
Uh-huh.
The alternating current
Yeah.
electricity circuit. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If that means anything to anybody, great. If it
not-
does, you probably already know who Tesla is.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah. In the world of the history of American patents, he's tied up with Edison.
Yes.
There's a lot of argument over who patented what
Yes.
first and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And he worked for Edison for a while, and I don't want to get into that.
No, that's a whole...
That is a whole
Are
thing.
you in the Tesla camp or the Edison camp?
It has nothing to do with cats.
No, it doesn't.
So we're not going to talk about that. But if you're curious, please go and look it up.
There really is some interesting history there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the Tesla camp.
I am too, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, so, I'm sort of a fan
Sure.
of Tesla.
Yes.
He really was, in a time in the late 19th, early 20th century, at a time where a lot of scientists who were earning patents in the U.S. were really seen as businessmen, and they were very well kempt and
Right.
had proper offices and staff and,
Yes.
that sort of thing. Tesla was still seen as sort of the mad scientist.
Right.
He was born in Serbia.
Yes.
And he had this very Slavic way about him.
I remember, just going off on a slight tangent.
Okay.
I remember you and I were talking about Tesla one time. I don't know if you remember this.
Okay.
I think we were waiting for a table at the Olive Garden.
Doesn't sound like us.
We had a gift card.
Oh, we had a gift card. Oh, that's funny.
Anyway.
Okay.
We were waiting for a table. We were talking about Tesla. And you were saying, where is he from? He's from Eastern Europe somewhere, I think. I'm like, I don't know. Let me look it up. So I Googled it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, California. And you're like, really? Yeah, it says so right here. Oh, no, wait. That's the band. Formed in California.
Tesla, the band. That you're going to say the car company.
No.
Oh,
the band.
that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah, he was not from California.
No.
I don't think he ever set foot in California.
Probably not.
He was born in Serbia. His family immigrated to New York City. I don't know that he ever left New York after that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know his full biography,
Right.
but I think he was just so busy with electricity.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about today, so at some point in every scientist's life, they are inspired to pursue the science that they will make their mark upon. Okay. And with Tesla, that happened because of his cat.
Ah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is the kind of thing where there might be mythology, we know, or we don't know, but the idea that, I don't know, Washington chopping down an apple tree
Sure.
or blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the legend
Or
there.
why did Lincoln grow a beard? Because the little girl told him to,
Right, yeah.
nonsense like that,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So at some point, someone may have heard, oh, Tesla, he was engaged in the science of electricity because of his cat. Well, there's truth to this because he wrote a letter as an adult to a woman named Pola Fotich, in which he explained his early interactions with his cat and how that led him to a fascination with electricity.
All right.
So this letter has been reprinted many times, and maybe some of our listeners have seen it before. If not, it's very easy to find if you look it up online. I have looked up Miss Pola Fotich.
Yeah, who was she? Was she a friend
No
of his,
idea.
or- Okay.
The best I could find is that she was perhaps an old friend from Serbia, maybe someone he'd known as a kid.
Okay.
But I mean, I can't find anything. If you Google her,
Yeah.
really all you find are references to this letter.
Oh, I see.
But it is well regarded that Nikola Tesla is the author of this letter.
Yeah.
So it begins like this. My dear Miss Fotich,
Ah.
I am forwarding to you the calendar of Yugoslavia of 1939, showing the house and community in which I had many sad and joyful adventures, and which also, by a bizarre coincidence, I was born. So there's this calendar that's been published in 1939,
Yeah.
and one of the photographs in it is actually of his childhood home.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And he moved.
March 1939. His house. I don't know. I'm saying.
Like in March of like it's the picture in March.
Flip it to each calendar, and there's like a house at each.
Yeah, that I don't know. That I don't know. But he goes on and he actually it's June. I'm sorry.
Oh, it is June. Oh,
As
I
you
was
see
close.
from the photograph on the sheet for June.
Okay,
Yeah.
there it is.
Wow, that's amazing. It's in here. It's in the letter. Okay. So he goes on and he writes about his mother and, how hard she worked. I think he was one of 5 children, maybe 6. No, I'm not remembering. I read a whole biography this week. So,
Yeah.
but didn't bring it with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah. We wouldn't need that.
Yeah. So she was a wonderful mother and she was indefatigable, as he says. Such a great word.
Yes.
And that they had servants as well. So she was their boss and raising the children, and that they had a lot of pets and other farm animals
Yeah.
to take care of. Okay. So it's at this point that he starts to discuss his childhood cat.
Ah,
And this cat's name is Macaque.
macaque, like a monkey.
No, not with a Q.
Oh.
An Macak.
Okay.
Now, that may not be how you pronounce it, but I like
Okay.
the idea that it would be pronounced macaque.
Yeah.
Macaque, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying.
Macaque or something like that. But if it's
It doesn't have any symbols that go with
no
the letters,
special
though.
letters. Yeah.
No. So I'm going to say macaque.
Okay.
Because I like that.
Yes, but not like a monkey because it's not a Q.
No, not a Q. All right. He says that Macaque was the finest of all cats in the world.
Wow.
I wish I could give you an adequate idea of the affection that existed between us. So just this incredible love between a child
Yeah.
and his cat.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then he says, now I must tell you a strange and unforgettable experience that stayed with me all my life.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm not going to tell you all of it. I'll be skipping around in the letter.
Sure.
It's quite a long letter, and you're
okay.
welcome to go and read it on your own.
It's out there, folks.
Yes, it's on the internet anywhere you would like. Okay. So it happened that one day, the cold, it's very cold where they were in Serbia, was drier than ever before. People walking in the snow left a luminous trail behind them, and a snowball thrown against an obstacle gave a flare of light, like a loaf of sugar cut with a knife.
Wow. Well, that was very illustrative.
Yes.
Yes.
In the dusk of the evening, as I stroked Macaque's back, I saw a miracle that made me speechless with amazement. Macaque's back was a sheet of light, and my hand produced a shower of sparks loud enough to be heard all over the house.
Oh, wow.
Right. So we know...
Nikola, what are you doing to that cat? Stop it.
We know that that's static electricity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Young Nikola did not know.
Did not know that.
Yes.
No, this is, does he give the year? He doesn't. Oh, he does say in this letter that when this is happening that he's 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
So that would put it in 1859.
Okay.
Yeah. So his father, who he discusses in the letter as being extremely educated and knowledgeable, especially about things about science and nature, actually didn't quite know what was happening and said, well, this is nothing but electricity, the same thing you see through the trees in a storm.
Ah, okay.
And then his mother said, stop playing with this cat. He might start a fire.
I love that.
Right. But I was thinking abstractedly, is nature a gigantic cat?
Oh.
If so, who strokes its back? Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So, and this is when he says he was 3 years old and already philosophizing.
Yes.
So there's
philosophy in there.
And electrical engineering.
Yeah.
He also writes that wherever I went, Macaque followed because of our mutual love and the desire from him to protect me. When such a necessity presented itself, he would rise to twice his normal height, buckle his back, and with his tail as rigid as a metal bar and whiskers like steel wires, he would give vent to his rage and explosive puffs. Oh, Harriet had a reaction to that.
She did.
It was a terrifying sight, and whoever had provoked him, human or animal, would beat a hasty retreat.
Wow.
Right. So he's talking about like the fur rising off the back and, and that's not electricity as it is in nature, although it is electrical pulses in the nervous system affecting the nerves and muscles within the cat.
Making the hair stand up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So he says, in respect to water, Macaque was very fastidious. He would jump 6 feet to avoid wetting his paws. And on such days, we went into the house and selected a nice, cozy place to play. But one night, he says, Macaque got caught in the rain. And he came and scratched on the door to be let in, as he always did. But this time he was all wet. And he said, Macaque took a few steps through the room. He shook his paws as though he were treading on wet ground. I looked at him attentively. Did I see something, or was it an illusion? I strained my eyes and perceived distinctly that his body was surrounded by a halo like a saint.
Okay.
I cannot exaggerate the effect of this marvelous night on my childish imagination. Day after day, I have asked myself, what is electricity? And found no answer. 80 years have gone by since that time, and I still ask the same question, unable to answer it. Some pseudoscientist, of whom there are only too many, may tell you that he can, but do not believe him. If any of them know what it is, I would also know, and my chances are better than any of them, for my laboratory work and practical experience are more extensive, and my life covers 3 generations of scientific research.
Wow.
So here's Tesla.
Yeah.
Arguably the greatest researcher into electricity in the history of mankind.
Right.
And, and electricity being the thing that allows humans to live the way that we do. I mean, there's nothing that we have in our lives.
There would be no podcast without electricity.
That's the far end of it.
Yeah, true.
True.
But all of modern day life is all tied up with.
Oh, we wouldn't have refrigerated food.
No.
We wouldn't have information disseminated. We wouldn't have hot water, right?
Yeah. No, it's just, it's insane when you think about it.
Yeah. And so, but even Tesla, at this point in his life, he's writing this letter in 1939, or at least that's when the calendar was published. We don't know when he's actually publishing the letter, although he died 4 years later.
Okay.
So he's, let me do the math.
Okay.
He's 83 at this point.
Apparently.
Writing this letter.
Yeah.
And saying that for 80 years, since he was 3 years old,
he's been fascinated by electricity.
Because of his cat. Yeah. And his cat sparked,
yes,
this interest in him in a young age and changed the lives of an entire planet.
Yeah.
Right?
Really?
Because of that cat.
Because of that cat.
An amazing cat.
You have that cat Macaque to thank for it.
Yeah. Macaque.
I don't know.
Macaque? I don't know.
I don't know either.
How else could you say it?
I think we've covered all the ways.
Okay. Well, if you're out there and you have another way to pronounce that. But I just think this is a wonderful story.
I do too. Yeah.
And that...
I'm wondering if the whole world is a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is nature a gigantic cat?
Gigantic cat.
He asks for. And if so, who pets it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. His father seemed like an incredibly bright person too.
Uh-huh.
Saying, yeah, this is just like lightning we see.
The same thing. Yeah.
And so then he sets out to spend his life trying to figure out how to, if lightning is electricity and what's coming off my cat's back is electricity, how can I make electricity?
Mm-hmm. How can we harness this?
Yeah. How can I figure out what makes it come out of the sky? What makes it come off my cat's back?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
what do we do from there?
How are these two things the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what else can be the same thing?
Right.
And how can I make the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what can you do with it once you've made it?
Right.
But you can invent the light bulb.
Yeah.
And that's the great argument about Tesla and Edison, isn't it?
It sure is.
Who made this first?
Edison patented it.
Tesla had a lot of patents, though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. He was the first person to try to patent wireless communication.
Mm-hmm.
But then he couldn't really make it work practically.
Yeah.
I think he lost a lot of money in backers, if I remember that story correctly. Yeah, that he thought he could send information across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he couldn't actually make it happen when it came down to it. But his work
paved the way for
for everybody else to be able to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you think about your wireless communication today, well, you better thank Tesla.
That's right.
And then thank his cat.
Thank you for sparking.
Well, I think all of us recognize, those of us who have cats when we're little, we all recognize that they are fascinating, right? And I felt like I could tell when, if I touched my cat, I was going to get a shock.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we had shag carpeting in my house.
So there's a lot of shocking the cat.
Yes, there's a lot. And I know, like, the cat, a cat, whichever cat it was, would come up to me, be rubbing against my leg and stuff and want me to pet him or her. And I could just feel it. Like, okay, I'm going to pet you, but I'm going to get shocked.
Well,
and we're both going to be shocked. Yes. Right. And then we're going to look at each other and be like, ah.
Zap. The problem is it's extremely confusing for the cat. It's like, why is this happening?
No, I think they get it.
Do they?
Yeah. Okay. They live in nature.
Well, yeah.
They understand.
I guess.
And it happens repeatedly.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess when they're walking around in the shag carpeting and rubbing up against things and building up that charge.
Yeah.
If it's not you that touches them that's going to release that charge, it's going to be something else. That they go over and they sniff something and they're going to get it one way or the other anyway.
Yeah, especially a cat who likes to rub against the corner of the television.
Yeah.
I'm on the shag carpeting, I'm rolling around, scratching my back in the shag carpeting. I'm going to scratch against the corner of the television. Ah!
Was it one of those big floor, like, piece of furniture TVs?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Especially at my grandparents' house.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have cats. But, yeah, if you'd had a cat at their house with the shag carpeting and the giant... Okay, my grandmother still has that television.
Really?
Oh, yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. And she has a cat now.
Okay.
I wonder if that's ever happened.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I also know that, like, I'd be walking in the shag carpeting, so I'm building up static electricity. And the cat's walking around the shag carpeting. Yeah. Especially if I was barefoot, I feel like, right?
Right.
And then I feel like I'd be petting the cat, but then, like, go to open a door. Like, if I'm carrying the cat, or I'm a little girl, I'm carrying a cat, and then I go to open the door to my bedroom, and I would always get a shock off the doorknob.
Oh, yeah.
And I just feel like it's too much electricity going on, little girl, lots of hair, fluffy cat.
That's
shag carpeting.
That's a recipe.
Touch the doorknob.
You might catch the house on fire.
That's what Tesla's mom said. Stop petting that cat. He might start a fire.
Oh, boy.
Good story, though, right?
Very good story. Very interesting. That all of Tesla's great work started with that cat.
Started with the cat. Started with the cat loving him and protecting him and following him around everywhere.
Yeah. If he had been mean to the cat or the cat didn't like him for whatever other reason, none of that would have happened.
Well, and that cat didn't chose him over his
how
other
many
brothers
siblings?
and sisters.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
4 or 5 other siblings.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah. So from a story about a cat that did not mean to begin a movement in modern science, but did. Moving on to a story about a cat who took credit for scientific research that he, in fact, had not completed.
Ah, yes.
So we're going to jump forward in history to the 1970s. And this is a story about a Dr. Jack H. Hetherington, who was a physics professor at Michigan State University. And in 1975, professors publish papers, right? They do research, they publish papers, all right. So in 1975, he had finished a paper and he was looking for a place to publish it. And it was titled, or it is titled because it still exists.
You can still see it.
That's right. You can, in fact, still see it. Many places, in fact, because of what I'm about to explain.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's titled 2, 3, and 4 atom exchange effects in BCC3He, meaning 3 helium. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There. I don't know what that means. Apparently, it's an exploration of atomic behavior at different temperatures. Atomic behavior of helium, I guess, at different temperatures?
I guess. 2,
yeah.
3, and 4 atom exchange effects.
Yeah. In
helium.
It's got to be in helium. Okay. I don't really care what that has to do with me. Right?
It's way over my head.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably read the abstract and go, yeah, okay.
Okay. I see what he was going for there.
Yeah. Anyway, so it gets accepted to be published at the Physical Review Letters.
Ooh,
that's what it's called, Physical Review Letters.
Wow.
Which is still in publication today. It's called the world's premier physics letter journal.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what makes it a letter journal versus I don't really know anything about. Anyway, so before he sent it off, he gives it, Dr. Hetherington gives it to one more colleague, like another professor at University of Michigan, and says, Michigan State.
Yes.
Not the University of Michigan, Michigan State. And gives it to somebody else to read. And the guy says, this looks great. It's ready to go. One problem. You wrote the whole paper using the royal we.
The royal we.
So anytime you're saying, so I conclude or I suspect.
Yes.
He was writing, we conclude or we suspect, as if he were the Queen of England. Or as if he were, my mother used to always say, if I said we, my mom would say, who's we? Do you have a mouse in your pocket? So he says, okay, what am I going to do about this? Does your mom ever say that? Do you have a mouse in your pocket?
No.
Okay, because I say that to people. I think my mom must have made that up. Because
nobody else every time
I've ever said that to somebody, especially to a kid, they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I always thought that was hilarious.
I don't know that I ever used the royal we to that extent.
I think the idea was more that I would say, we're going to go to the park. My mom would say, who's we? Do you have a mouse in your pocket? And I'd say, oh, I meant me and Megan,
Okay, I see.
Yeah, it was more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because kids do that. Well, adults do it too.
We do.
Oh, yeah,
we. I just did it right now.
You just did it. Who's we?
All of us.
You got a mouse in your pocket? I think that's a funny joke.
It is.
I think more people should use it.
I think so too.
Okay. So
Big Lebowski.
this is what the other this is what the other professor says to him. He says, this is great. You've just got this problem.
Right.
Now, if this were today, he could take the paper and just, open up the file and do a find.
Oh, yeah.
Find all, replace.
Yes. Change all the we to the I. 15 seconds and you're all done.
And my instead of we and our and whatever. Okay. This is 1975.
Yeah.
This thing was typewritten.
So it's a lot more difficult to go into.
Oh my God. He would have had to retype the whole thing. He's on a deadline. He's got to get the thing into the journal, right?
Yeah, right.
So instead of staying up all night retyping it or for 2 days or bribing a secretary in the physics department at Michigan State or something to do it, he says, well, what if I just add an author?
Yeah.
Now, the problem with this, of course, is that he did the research on his own.
Right.
And also because thinking about what it means to author a paper, right? If he were to, at this last moment, bring in someone else and say, look, I've got this problem, I've got this pronoun problem, it would be easier just to change the cover page and add another author than to rewrite the whole thing. So, hey, Bob, you know, you want to be on my paper.
You want to co-author a paper for me? It's going to be published in this journal.
When you've done no work.
Right.
So here's the problem. There's a few problems. One is the compensation would be different, right? He's not going to get paid anymore if there's another guy. Now he's going to have to split.
So he's going to split it with Bob, who did no work.
That's right. Or another problem would be that his reputation is going to be judged based on the fact that he did not do this on his own, but did it with somebody else. Yeah. And then that other person is going to get additional recognition for their reputation for doing something they hadn't done, right? Yes. And then the other thing is that actually he wants to be able to say that I did this on my own. Okay?
Yeah, right.
So then later on, you know, if it wins a prize or something, he doesn't want to have to share it with Bob, who didn't do anything. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that was really good work, except, you know, it took a couple of guys to do it. You know, it wasn't that good. Yeah. Right? And then, you know, and also say...
if you had another guy, why didn't you do 5 atom exchanges?
Right, I know. Come on. 2, 3, and 4.
Why stop there? You got another guy. Come on.
You could have done more than that. And then, of course, if this research is used by other people in the future and is referenced, you know, it's going to be referenced not just to him.
Right.
There's another issue I thought about that wasn't written about in what I was reading, which is that as an academic, when I cite things, often in footnotes, if there's multiple authors, you only list the first one alphabetically. Yeah. And then it's kind of like it's et al.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You've seen that before in footnoting. So this guy's name is Hetherington. So he would have had to choose, if he was going to do this, he would have had to pick someone whose last name started with an I to a Z. So that he would be guaranteed.
The top billing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking about that too.
Wow, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that at all.
So in footnoting, yeah, you got to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was also thinking that if more research in this area of helium atom exchange, you know, was coming down the pike and there was, say, a grant available, you know, that maybe they'd go to Bob and say, hey, Bob, we've got some grant money.
Really?
We see you did some previous work. Right?
Right.
And Jack would be over there going, hey, wait, no, that was my work. I just messed up with the pronouns.
Take that up with the English department, dude. We are physicists.
All I know is I've got some grant money.
All right.
Okay. So he doesn't want to do that.
Right.
He doesn't want to just ask someone to go in as a co-author of his paper at the last minute like this.
Too messy.
Yeah, too many things can go wrong. So instead, he spends an evening in a paper he wrote later on, like an article he wrote. Yeah. In a popular science magazine. He described this as an evening's thought. He gave it an evening's thought.
Right.
What should he do? What should he do? And he decided that he wanted to meet his deadline that was rapidly approaching. Yeah. And so he didn't want to go back and retype it. And he was sitting there giving it an evening's thought with his cat, Chester. And he thought, Chester can co-author my paper.
He can be the we.
Yes. So he gave Chester co-authorship of the paper, just retyped that title page. But he didn't just write, you know, so it does, if you go and you find it, it doesn't just say Jack H. Hetherington and Chester.
Right.
He actually, it says Jack H. Hetherington and FTC Willard. Three initials and then the last name Willard.
Okay.
Okay. Now, my thought about if you add another author, they want to come later in the alphabet.
You got that covered.
He got that covered.
Yeah.
Right? That's never discussed in any of the things I've read about this, but I'm like, this guy Hetherington, he knew what he was doing.
It adds up, yes.
Because even if later on there was additional research, he could still keep Chester as FTC Willard at the end of the alphabet because probably if he brought someone else on, they'd fall somewhere between Hetherington and Willard.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
I've been thinking about this. All right.
Yeah.
So he decides he's going to give Chester co-authorship of his paper. The FDC, by the way, stands for Felix Domesticus Chester.
Okay.
And Willard was Chester's father's name.
Oh, okay.
So I guess he was a purebred Siamese, I'm guessing, and they actually knew that that his sire
knew his lineage
was a Siamese cat named Willard. So that's his real family name. So it's his Latin Felix Domesticus Chester Willard. There you go. So that's his real name. Now, he didn't tell anyone.
Okay.
He just did this.
Yeah, just gonna put it out there.
Put it in a manila envelope as you would have in 1975.
Put some stamps on.
Addressed it.
Yeah.
Licked some stamps. They wouldn't have even been self-adhesives.
Right.
You've had to lick those stamps.
Oh, they tasted awful.
And walked it down to the mailbox and put it in. Okay?
Yeah.
It was published in issue 35 of Physical Review Letters. So you can go look up issue 35 of Physical Review Letters if you'd like to see the paper that Chester authored but didn't actually contribute to. And according to Hetherington, and because he over the years he was interviewed about this multiple times.
Yeah.
Like I said, he wrote even sort of a humorous essay about it for a popular science journal.
Yeah.
He always said that he didn't feel bad about this.
Right.
And he actually felt like if people find out, it's kind of a publicity stunt for this physics department at Michigan State.
Sure.
And himself.
And yes, absolutely.
And in fact, that is what happened. So in an interview he gave in a book titled More Random Walks in Science, which I guess you can also go find, he wrote, why would I do such an irreverent thing? If it eventually proved to be correct, people would remember the paper more if the anomalous authorship were known. In any case, I went ahead and did it and have generally not been sorry. Yeah, and in fact, from what I can read about this, the only people that were ever upset were the editors of the physical...
the physical journal letters.
Letters, journal, yeah. No. Those people were a little perturbed.
Okay.
That they felt like the wool had been pulled over their eyes.
Yeah,
they'd been made fun of in some way.
Yeah, this guy's, slipped one in on us.
Yeah, and I don't know that he ever was able to publish with them again. But everybody else found it extremely amusing. Yeah. All of his colleagues, even his colleagues at Michigan State in the physics department and otherwise, loved this.
Yeah.
And so did deans and vice presidents and department chairs, and everybody thought this was great.
Yeah.
They really found it. And, and in 1975, there wasn't this big movement. People weren't all into their cats. And,
right. Absolutely.
And so this really would have come out of nowhere.
Yes,
the idea
exactly.
That he was like, oh, my cat's pretty smart. My cat could have helped with this. Let's just put his name on there.
Well, cats often will test gravity, things like that.
Well, I think this is really the thesis of my talk today.
Yeah.
Is when I was older than Tesla, not 3.
Yeah.
But around the time that I first learned what physics was.
Okay.
So maybe 9 or 10 that I first kind of was hearing that word and sort of understood what it was.
Yeah.
I've been referring to cats as little furry physicists. When you watch them, people get upset that they knock glasses over or knock things off shelves and what have you. And I just call that testing gravity.
Yes.
That they're constantly saying, okay, let's see. There's a principle of physics that I've observed in my life.
Yes.
It is that when an object that is seated on another object is no longer seated on that object, it will fall to the nearest next object. Right?
Yes.
So with my paw, let me see if this principle that I've previously observed
conduct an experiment
is still maintained today.
Right.
So Tap, 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 object, fall. Watch it fall. Take note. All right. That object was no longer seated on another object.
Right.
Fell to the next object. That was the floor.
It was the rate at which it arrived at the floor. The velocity.
Let's see if it happens again. Tap, 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 tap. Huh. Look at that.
Yes.
Happened again.
That vase and that pencil fell at the same rate.
And both fell to the next available object, which was the floor. Well, let's see if it happens again. Tap, 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 tap. That full coffee cup. Right?
Yes.
That's all they're doing.
It is.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll happen again.
And just now, Harriet was throwing a little mouse up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Saying, will it fall?
Right.
Back to me, to my paws.
Yes.
Where I made them play with it. They do that all the time. They're judging distance. A lot of, when they sit and watch a spot where they're like, I'd like to be sitting on that spot.
Right.
How far is that from me? What angle must my jump be in order to land on that properly?
True.
What is my weight? What is my length?
Yes, you see them all the time making calculations.
Constantly making calculations.
When they're trying to jump from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then they'll move. They'll go like, okay, well, from this direction, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Right.
Because my speed will be too much. The impact will push my body forward when I land, and I'll hit my nose on the corner of the TV.
Right.
So maybe if I come from behind, right? So then they'll take a few steps and
recalculate.
Yeah. And
yes.
From here, can I do it from here? back. From here, maybe from here, and then sometimes they end up back where they started, and they jump from there.
Yeah.
And then I've got Pergo, who's really not much of a physicist.
Right.
Because although sometimes I think he understands physics more than other cats. Because when he wants to be sitting on top of something, a chest of drawers, a table, he actually doesn't even bother to look to see if there's something already in the spot where he wants to be, because he understands one of the laws of matter, which is that it can't exist in the same place at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't remember exactly how Newton stated that, but isn't that one of the laws of matter?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So he just goes, I want to be in that spot. And when I am in that spot, nothing else will be there anymore. Which just means that when I land, everything that's already there is just going to fall over.
He has a very different approach to physics than other cats. He doesn't make the calculations.
No. But I think he understands so much
laws.
about physics
right.
that the calculations don't matter.
No, they don't. Yeah.
I want to be there. Nothing else can be there. Once I'm there, it will all be gone. Now, how it moves and where it goes is of no concern to me.
Irrelevant, yes. That's for the kind of cat that does the calculations to figure out.
Yeah. He's like, I can't be bothered.
Right.
I have other things to do. But right now, I'd like to be sitting there.
Right.
Yeah, he does that all the time, which is why I have to, if I'm watching TV or I'm reading a book in bed, any beverages I have to start on the floor. They have to be on the floor to begin with. And ideally, I'll have lids on them.
Oh, my God.
Because he'll just, if it's up on a bedside table or on the coffee table or something.
It's gone.
And he wants to come sit by me.
Yeah.
Yeah. In place of the drink will be a
cat.
purring 17-pound orange flufferhead. And my drink will be all over the floor.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
And I can't even blame him for it. Because
No,
I've
you
lived
can't.
with him
Yes.
since he was a baby, and I know this. And if I put a drink up on a table, it is my own fault when it ends up spilled all over the floor.
You have an understanding.
Well, because I understand the physics.
Right.
I know that that's going to happen.
Yep.
And for me to think maybe this time it won't happen and I can keep my drink here is just me being an idiot.
Right. Yeah. You both know the deal.
We both understand the laws of matter. He also does not calculate much because he always leaves his feet behind when he jumps up on things.
Oh, interesting.
Like he jumps, he gives himself enough velocity.
I know exactly what you mean.
To get
I've
up
seen
to
him do that.
to get up to the back of his belly.
Right. Yeah,
And then he just scrambles up the rest of the way.
Yes, because he understands that is where his center of gravity is. And if he can get just beyond that point, the rest of it's all just scrambling and climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of it I can do.
I can pull the rest of myself up.
So he's actually a little bit lazy.
Because it really kind of is.
There'd have to be more of a thrust,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
In the initial push-off.
Right, in order to land all 4 feet on top of the counter or wherever.
Right,
Yeah.
but he doesn't see the reason to exert all that energy.
No. What's the minimum I can do to get up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's not, if he were taking a physics class and be asked to do all that math, he'd say, like, well, I don't want to do the math of how to get my whole body up on the counter.
Right.
I want to go sit on the bar, but...
It's a very different approach.
Right, but I don't need to get my whole body up there. I only need to get up beyond my center of gravity so that I can just pull the rest of myself up.
That sounds like a physics paper that some cat should write.
That some cat should write. Well, Chester, unfortunately, is no longer with us because this was 1975, and I'm sure he was already a grown cat.
Right.
Otherwise he wouldn't have had the brains to work on this helium question. Yeah. But no, I've been saying that since I was a girl.
Yeah.
They're little furry physicists. And even cats, we watch them. If we watch them hunt, whether it's a toy or a real living thing, we watch them judge constantly. If you watch your cats, or doing calculations rather, and judging, distance, velocity, necessary calorie exertion, et cetera, right? That like if they're looking at moths in your house, for example, like any kind of flying thing in the house, they know they can't get to where it is.
Right. They know there's a point, like if it's flying up again along the wall and they're right there and the moth is up next to the wall and it's flying vertically up. They know there's a point at which it's of no use for them to try to jump and try to get it because it's crossed that threshold and they can't.
Right.
They can't make it.
Right. But they will watch the flying behavior. And if they can discern a pattern, they will use that
and they
to their benefit.
Yes.
To eventually catch it.
Yeah.
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 We've all seen them do this.
It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah. A rolling ball. If you have a cat that likes rolling balls, they'll do that. They'll judge.
Yeah.
Cody.
Objects in motion.
Yeah, my cat Cody loved super bouncy balls.
Oh, yes.
And she understood that she liked watching them when they were doing really high bounces. But she understood whatever there's got to be a name for the principle of like
when it
lesser energy, right?
Yeah, the energy.
Yeah,
whatever.
We're not physicists.
No.
But she understood that. She understood it can only make so many super high bounces until the bounces will get lower.
Right.
And so I can just enjoy it as entertainment until it gets to a point where I will be able to catch it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Energy depletion. I don't know.
Something like that.
I'm making up stuff, but that's...
But again, that has to do with, matter and energy and how much...
Yeah, how much energy is stored in that thing when it starts and how it is expended with each bounce.
Exactly. Yeah. And she just understood that instinctively. She knew, well, I just get to enjoy it. It's like a movie.
Yes.
Until it gets to the point where I can hunt it.
Because of observing the pattern and recognizing the pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I tell a story on the podcast about my cats who had never in their lives climbed trees, and then like all of a sudden recently they've thought that they were tree climbers?
Well, I don't know if you told this on the podcast, but you've told me when we were recording before the mic was on or whatever.
Yeah. And so here they are. They're like 7 years old now. And just in the last year, the two of them have been like, we're tree climbers now. And what I realized they were doing is they've been sitting in the window looking at that tree, like my big mesquite elm in my backyard, and looking at it and thinking about it.
Studying it.
Yes. And both of them did the same thing when they tried to climb the tree, which was that they'd spent years calculating how they would get up a tree.
Yeah.
And never once spent a moment considering how they would get back down again.
Yeah.
And so I think, like many scientists, right? They're working toward an idea.
Right.
They're never thinking what's going to happen once they get there. What now? You know, Dr.
Yes.
Hetherington, you know all this stuff about helium. What now?
what? Yes.
Now put your cat's name on it,
Right.
I guess. Okay.
Too funny.
So he did put Chester's name on it. Most everyone thought this was funny. And then a couple of funnier things happened, which is that they began to get requests for autographed copies. So Dr. Hetherington actually, he signed several and put Chester's paw print on them. And there's
I
actually,
see.
in this version that I found on the internet, there's actually a PDF of that, which is fun. So I don't know what Chester thought of that. But I remember one time when I was in college, my dad thought it would be funny to send me a letter as if it were written by the cat.
Oh,
And then
yes.
put the paw print, put her paw in the ink and
boy.
stamp it.
Yeah.
You know, we'd all seen this.
Sure.
But this had never been done in practice in my family.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I'm never doing that again.
Because what's going to happen? You're going to end up with a cat that's got ink all over its paw. It's going to run away.
Oh, yeah. I
That's
mean,
ink all over the carpet now.
yeah. Again, you know, as many scientists don't think things through. I don't know. I was away at college, so I don't know what the aftermath was,
Oh,
but I have a
boy.
feeling my mother wasn't very happy.
Your mom.
But my dad sure thought it was clever.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. This was back in the days, though, where you had ink pads around the house. Do you remember having ink pads around the house for...
Vaguely.
Yeah, for like the return address on the letter.
Sure.
It was like a regular thing.
Yeah.
I don't have an ink pad in my house.
Oh,
If I
God,
wanted
no.
to do a
No.
stamp with my cats, I wouldn't do that though. Oh my God.
Oh, no.
Cleaning it up afterwards.
No.
And then also the idea that they might lick their paw.
And it might be toxic.
Who knows?
I don't know.
It's not a great idea.
No.
Okay. Another thing that started happening at Michigan State is that people would come by the physics department as like guests of the university.
Yeah.
Who were guests of different departments or there for totally different reasons, but would ask if they could visit the physics department and see if they could meet Chester. Well, Chester didn't live at the physics department.
No.
He lived at Dr. Hetherington's house.
Right.
But actually, they did give Chester a title.
Oh.
He became the university's Rodentia Predation Consultant.
Okay.
It's a very fancy title.
It is indeed.
And in fact, the physics chairman of Michigan State at the time, Truman Woodruff, he wrote a letter, an official letter to Dr. Hetherington that actually there's a PDF of online that you can see that asked him if he could persuade Dr. Willard, meaning Chester,
Yes.
to join the department full time. And the letter included, can you imagine the universal jubilation if in fact Willard could be persuaded to join us, even if only as a visiting distinguished professor?
Wow. It's so cool that the university was okay with this.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine a university being okay with it now,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
but I have a feeling like in the 80s and 90s, like no one would have found this funny.
Right. Or in the 70s, a guy named Truman Woodruff. That doesn't sound like somebody to be like, oh, that is so awesome. Let's get a cat.
Yeah, let's
be-
do this.
No. Truman Woodruff sounds like a very serious guy.
I mean, overall, this sounds like a physics department I'd want to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? These sound like awesome dudes.
Yes.
I mean, I think, I don't know, are physicists goofy characters to begin with, really? If you choose to live your life.
Yeah, probably. I think if you're spending as much time as you are worried about atom exchanges and helium, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least in this department. I mean, obviously, like-minded people come together.
Sure.
And if Truman Woodruff is the chair of physics and they hired Dr. Hetherington at some point,
Yeah.
you know, they must have, we can work with this guy.
He's the head goofball.
Yeah, bring this other guy along in.
Right.
And then the other guy says, oops, I used the royal we. Well, instead of retyping it,
Right.
let's just add my cat to the front page.
It was a simple solution to a problem with
Right.
the...
Well, sometimes the best solution is the simplest one.
Right. Yeah. Clearly.
But I don't know if adding your cat was the simplest solution.
It was a solution.
It was one solution.
It was simpler than having to retype the whole paper.
It did occur to me that it's 1975.
Yeah.
Were they just all stoned?
That's a distinct possibility as well.
Was he at home giving it an evening's thought, as he said?
Well, here's the question.
And maybe he'd had some mushroom tea,
What?
and it seemed like Chester was talking to him.
All
Was
right.
Chester saying, "Hey, go ahead, add me to the paper"?
Here's the question that I have
Okay.
with regard to this paper. Did he have a mouse in his pocket? Who was the we? Because it's not like, you know what? You started out saying I, and then in the middle you drifted into we a few times, and then went back to I. No, it's we consistently throughout the whole paper, apparently.
Well, I think actually I don't have so much of a problem with that. I think that sometimes there is an idea in academia that you're
Okay.
speaking from
We as in the
discipline
physicist community.
yeah, as in a discipline.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. That makes sense.
And so he wrote it that way. Maybe he'd written other things that way. But this particular journal was like, no, we won't take it that way.
Right.
You know?
You got to say who the other,
Yeah.
who else in the is
Yeah.
the we.
Or change it.
Right.
Yeah. Rewrite it. So, yeah. And I don't have that much of a problem with
Yeah,
that.
I get it.
But yeah, mushroom tea, some strong hash, maybe.
Sure.
Maybe he did think there was someone else helping him out.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe there's more to Chester than we realize.
Perhaps.
I mean, he is a Siamese cat, much like Jake in The Cat from Outer Space. Maybe he's related to Jake.
Wow.
I liked in this article that I found about this actually comes from Atlas Obscura, which Atlas Obscura is fantastic.
Yeah, it's
If you're,
a great
we've talked about them
website.
before on here.
Yeah.
And if you don't already read their online articles or follow them on Facebook or Twitter or something, you should.
Yes, for sure.
Oh God, their material is amazing.
I
but
check them out every day.
I love Atlas Obscura.
Yes.
So this particular, I just love this. They had a picture of a Siamese cat in this article, and the caption for it is "FTC Willard was a Siamese cat just like this one." So this
That's
isn't a
not
fiction.
him.
It's not him.
That's too funny.
It's just in case you were wondering what a Siamese cat looked like. Here's one. That made me
that's
laugh. That made me laugh.
So they
hard.
couldn't find an actual picture of Willard or Chester.
Chester.
Right.
FTC Willard.
FTC Willard.
Yeah. Okay, so the funniest thing I think of all is that so this whole thing happened, as a means to an end,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Okay. But in 1980, Dr. Hetherington had written another paper, apparently.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
he submitted it to a French popular science magazine. Do you speak French?
I not really know.
Okay, it's La Recherche, Recherche.
The research.
Oh, yeah.
I don't speak French, but I can kind of deduce.
I think Recherche.
Recherche.
Maybe,
Perhaps. Yeah.
So this was submitted to this magazine. It was already written in French. The author, Dr. FTC Willard.
Oh.
It was accepted for publication
Okay.
and published.
This was no co-authorship. It was fully,
No,
okay.
this was just Dr. Hetherington being a whack job.
Okay.
Like, let's just see
You're pushing it now, doctor.
what these French guys know. Isn't that hilarious? So, I mean,
and
if
the
you're
French guys were like, "Oh, this FTC Willard had a paper published
Right.
in this their
that's
journal."
exactly what happened. Yeah, they accepted it and they published it. No questions asked.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So this guy really, he sounds like a lot of fun.
He does. He does.
But I mean, if you were to accept the fact that Chester wrote it on his own, that he did the research,
Yeah.
then typed it in French,
Wow.
and then maybe got some help from Dr. Hetherington, like putting it in an envelope
Yeah.
and mailing it off.
So they got all the verb tenses and everything right
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
foreign
all-
language.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then did he sign the contract that came for the payment?
Yeah, how do you
Or
cash that check?
Paw print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to be endorsed in some way from.
It's all wacky, right? None of those questions are answered, but you can look it up. So FTC Willard or Chester
Yes.
had a short publishing career, just those 2 articles.
Yeah.
But this is a long-standing story that's known amongst physicists, I guess.
Okay.
And to the extent that in 2014, so 2 years ago, the American Physical Society made an announcement that all cat-authored papers would be available as open access documents.
Ah.
But this press release came out on April 1st.
Oh, no.
But there are 2 cat-authored physics papers
There
that
are.
exist, and they are both available to be read.
There you go.
So there you have it. So those are my 2 stories about
That is hilarious.
cats and the history of physics, I guess.
Hmm.
I don't know if that opened up an opportunity for other animals to co-author papers.
I don't know. Do we know of any other? Was there like a badger that wrote any papers on chemistry or?
I didn't do that research, Tim.
All right.
I didn't. I don't know. But this is what I do know.
Okay.
And these are pretty good stories.
Those are good stories. Yes,
Yeah.
very, very much so. Thank you
so-
for sharing.
And so leads us to the idea, though, that cats are little furry physicists, and they're always.
And little generators of electricity as well.
It's true.
Yes.
Although I imagine in a blackout, I don't think you could get your cat to power your laptop.
Yeah, it's not going to throw off quite enough sparks to be able to see what you're doing.
But threw off enough sparks to spark the imagination of Nikola Tesla.
Wow.
Wow. I'm not usually quite that bad, but
You couldn't resist.
I couldn't. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well, I think.
Any other questions?
I think.
I probably can't answer them.
because we went over everything.
Everything I have there.
You've gone through the notes and you set them aside.
Yeah, because that's done.
It's all
I got
done.
nothing else.
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, then go play with your cats.
Go play with your cats.
Bye.
Bye.